Hey everyone, you may be wondering what that monstrosity was that I just played at the beginning of this video. That was actually a stop motion video I made with my toy Bionicles when I was 9 years old. If you're unfamiliar with Bionicles, they're basically like these buildable action figures and they look really cool. And I have been wanting to experiment with my content lately, so in today's video I'm going to be talking about how Bionicles played a really important role in saving LEGO. And I'm also going to be talking about how I believe Bionicle really had an important impact on society. Also, I know my core audience isn't probably going to watch this video, but all I ask is just please give this a chance. Honestly, this is kind of a passion project of mine. I probably put 40 hours into this video so far, so I really appreciate if you watch it and left a like. That would really mean a lot. Okay, let's talk about Bionicle. In May of 1999, LEGO reported that in 1998, the company saw their first ever annual loss, reporting a loss of $27.7 million. This expected loss was due to increasing competition from electronic toy companies, the rise of computer and video games, as well as toy merchandise related to film and TV programs, among other things. In 1999, LEGO had to cut 1,000 jobs. As a result of the culture shift towards electronics and video games, LEGO decided to try to dabble in this market. They did this by launching LEGO Mindstorms, LEGO Technics, and even the video game LEGO Island. But in a CNBC interview, LEGO's senior vice president of brand marketing, Mike Moynihan, said it just hurt the company's bottom line. So LEGO decided they should try to incorporate their LEGO bricks into the digital culture. In 1999, LEGO launched its Star Wars series, and in 2001, it launched its Harry Potter series. Also in 2001, they launched Bionicle. And there's a big debate online on what actually saved LEGO. You go some places and they'll say that LEGO Star Wars really saved LEGO. Others will say that Bionicle was the main driving factor, but I honestly think it's safe to say that both of these had an important role. But this video is about Bionicles, so sorry Star Wars fans. I really didn't play with your LEGOs as a kid. I'm sorry. But let's take a look at how Bionicles came about. In 1999, LEGO released Slicer. In 2000, they launched Robo Riders, which were like fighting bikes, I think. Now, after the releases of these short-lived products, LEGO needed something to follow up. Bionicle co-creator Christian Faber said in the Bits and Bricks podcast, quote, "We were thinking, okay, what if we had a story that was just as big as Star Wars with just as much content?" And the creation of Bionicles was actually one in the making since 1986. Because that year, Faber discovered he had a brain tumor, and as a result of his treatment, he spent 10 years having morning sickness. He said that he imagined the pills he was taking were tiny soldiers fighting his brain tumor. Once Faber saw the canister packaging the design team presented to him, he was reminded of the medicine he was taking. And this is where the idea of the soldiers coming out of the canister comes from. Alistair Sweenerton built on this idea and helped develop the lore and give these figures a backstory. The project was originally called Boneheads of Voodoo Island, and then it was renamed to Bionicle. Bionicle launched worldwide in 2001, but LEGO had to play to the digital culture. They couldn't just release the toys, so they launched a website, comics, and we're developing 2 video games. The first year of the global release of Bionicles saw £100 million, which today is $135.5 million. Now, the thing about Bionicles is that there's a lot of lore. Like a lot of lore. There was not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 movies, 70 books, over 50 comics, trading cards, a TV show, and oh, who could forget the McDonald's toys? But as I said, there is so much lore, and I'm not going to explain it all here, but there's plenty of videos online where you can find that. To be honest, as a kid, I was never really into the lore. I was like, hey, this is cool and all, but I just want to build these Bionicles and have them fight each other. Basically, with the lore, all you need to know is that there are good guys, the Toa, and then there's bad guys. Oh, and there's this sleeping guy, Mata Nui, who the Toa are struggling to wake up because I guess he took too many sleeping pills. Now let's talk about the one thing that made me fall in love with Bionicles as a kid. The commercials. I think everyone has that one commercial as a kid that is permanently ingrained into their head and they always associate positive memories with it. For me, that commercial was the Toa Nika 2006 commercial. I remember I was 6 years old, I believe I was watching Nickelodeon, and I saw this ad for the first time. I remember seeing these robot-looking dudes firing these balls while dodging these lasers, and oh my god, even at age 21, this is the coolest thing ever. All this while Move Along by the All-American Rejects was playing, and for copyright reasons, I can't play it, but I can give you a cover. And even when your hope is gone, move along like a something to do. And that's why my singing career never took off. And these commercials accomplished what they were set out to do. make me want to buy the product. And the commercials got me hooked. I remember I instantly went to my mom and begged for a Bionicle, and my first Bionicle, I believe, was this one. I don't remember its name. There was also a commercial which was just like a rap video. Yo, Paraka. I managed to find footage of me building them as a kid, and I'll be honest, these things were actually kind of hard to put together. A lot of the times I'd have to go to my mom and ask her to help me with them because I was just so weak. I always had a tough time playing with Legos as a kid just because they were always kind of small and I would just break them. But Bionicles were harder to break and they were a lot more functional. You could do a lot of different things with them. They were action figures, and oh my god, did I mention how cool they look. Now let's talk about YouTube. As soon as I saw a commercial for the Baraki, I immediately went to my mom's computer and wanted to watch the ad over and over and over and over again. And that's when I learned about Bionicle fan-generated content. There were so many random people online making stop motions of Bionicles in which they would create their own storylines and they would fight each other. I think my favorite series was Bionicle Adventures, particularly the kid torturing Bionicle at Walmart, which, trust me, as you can imagine from the title, was an amazing video. I also remember this two-part series in which these two teenagers went to Walmart and accidentally bought a bad guy instead of a good guy. And then in the second episode, someone buys the last good guy and then they beat him up and take it from him. And this is truly a piece of cinematic history. I know this video isn't gonna interest a lot of my core audience, but I think it's important to realize how much these really mean to me. I remember seeing people be creative and make really cool fight scenes and storylines when I was just 8 years old. This inspired me to make my own videos. They weren't very good and they lacked originality. The main premise in pretty much all the videos was that there was a good guy and there was a bad guy, and the good guy would usually win. I didn't have a tripod, the camera was shaky, the lighting was bad, the stop motion was horrible, but I loved every second of it. I was just a kid and I was making stuff like this, but in my head, it felt like I was making stuff like this. Bionicle is where I found my love for creating video content, and although I soon graduated from making Bionicle videos into whatever this channel has become, Bionicle seriously changed my life, and I guarantee if it weren't for these Bionicles, I wouldn't be a YouTuber today. Now, as you can imagine, the 2010 news that Bionicle was being discontinued was probably the worst day of my life. I was 10 years old, so it's not like my life was that challenging at that point. This was a pretty bad day. But when Bionicle was discontinued, they promised a new line with new story content. And this would go on to be Hero Factory, which were like crime-fighting robots. I never really understood the story, honestly. I know a lot of Bionicle fans didn't really like Hero Factory, but to be honest, as a kid, I did buy these. Why? Because they were the closest thing to Bionicles. They certainly don't look as cool as Bionicles, and I always found myself playing with Bionicles instead of Hero Factory. In 2014, LEGO stopped Hero Factory and actually rebooted Bionicle in 2015. And at this point, I was already checked out. I was 15 years old, and I'm not trying to say I was too cool for Bionicle, because believe me, I was a huge nerd in high school. I was an Eagle Scout, and I was on my school's robotics team. I was not above buying Bionicles. It's just that Generation 2 didn't really appeal to me. I stopped making stop motion videos, so I had less of a desire to buy these toys, but even then, they just didn't look as cool as the originals. And Generation 2, unfortunately, was short-lived, only spanning from 2015 to 2016. And there are a variety of factors that people like to argue. Some say that Generation 2's storyline was too basic and it was just appealing to kids, or that LEGO didn't market it effectively. People were also saying that the new sets were a little pricey, and I do remember that. I remember going into the toy store one day and looking at the Bionicle aisle, and I wanted to buy one, but then I was like, man, this is a little expensive. Like, does this really justify me buying one? Recently, Bionicle almost made a comeback. Sort of. In 2019, a fan named Sudoka made a LEGO set called Bionicle Legends and submitted it to LEGO Ideas. Despite the set performing well in fan voting, it was rejected by LEGO. This set was given a second chance in the Bricklink Designer program, and despite it doing well in the fan voting, it did not receive enough orders during the pre-ordering phase. Now, some people are quick to say, because this didn't get a lot of orders, that the Bionicle community is dead and that there's no interest for them. And with all due respect, I don't really understand this argument. The piece that was being released wasn't a Bionicle. It was something that was commemorating Bionicles. It was supposed to be a LEGO set, but it wasn't a Bionicle. And also, it was $120. I think what I really liked about Bionicles as a kid is they were these action figures that were $10 to $15. They were just something you could go and pick up in the store, go go home and build it and just start playing with it right away. I would like to think if they did some anniversary Bionicle that was a little cheaper, a lot of people would buy it. It makes me sad that there's a strong possibility that my kid will grow up not having the same experiences with Bionicle as I did. Sure, I have some Bionicles left over, but they're all missing pieces. Some of them don't even have arms. I would like to think if my kid took one of these into school, everyone would just think that it's just some ancient artifact. Now, when I was doing research for this video, I actually looked into the Bionicle community, and surprisingly, it's still incredibly active. The Bionicle subreddit has nearly 40,000 members, and it features a lot of users taking Bionicles and then making their own custom figures out of old Bionicle pieces. And a lot of these creations are really creative, and it's so cool to see people use these pieces that we all grew up with and continue to carry on the Bionicle legacy by making their own creation. There's also an active Bionicle community on Twitter, and there's still people making reviews and showing off their creations on YouTube. I even came across one video called Top 10 Bionicle Characters Who Would Torture Baby Yoda. So as you can see, the Bionicle YouTube community is still doing well. Every now and then I'll see a Bionicle meme go viral on Twitter, so it's really clear to me that Bionicle had an impact on so many people, including myself. Now today, if you want to find unopened Bionicles online, you're probably going to have to pay a lot of money. And although it does make me sad that we may never see another line of Bionicles again, what we do have are these memories that we can cherish for the rest of our lives. And who knows, maybe we'll see these in the near future. But that's all I pretty much have to say for this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much. It seriously means so much to me. If you played with Bionicles as a kid, please let me know. And even if you didn't know anything about Bionicles going into this video, I'd love to know what you think about it, because this is something that I'm really passionate about, and this really did shape who I am today, for better or worse, I guess. But make sure to comment your thoughts down below, leave a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel. Also, special shout out to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. But that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much, and Bionicle lives on.
Yo, Paraka. The gang on the loose, nothing you can do. The beast on the move, bully coming through. Trigger, tracer, drifter coming through.